Most people believe wealth is earned through effort. The powerful know a darker truth, that money flows not to the hardest workers, but to those who understand how to bend human behavior, perception, and hierarchy to their advantage. In this video, we uncover the strategy they use. Quiet, unseen, and devastatingly effective. In every society, modern or ancient, the masses chase money as if it were a fleeing shadow. They labor, struggle, and hope. Yet a small, silent minority acquires it with almost unnatural ease. Their methods are rarely spoken of, for they do not rely on effort, morality, or fairness. They rely on understanding the nature of people, their desires, fears, vanities, and illusions. As Niccolo Machiavelli once observed, the world rewards not the virtuous, but the perceptive. Power belongs to those who see the invisible strings that guide men's actions. Wealth merely follows. Tonight you will step behind the curtain, into the darker chambers of influence, where money is not earned, but engineered. Most people imagine wealth as something harvested through sweat, toil, and relentless sacrifice. But if you look closely at the men who shape nations, command markets, and bend institutions, you will notice a quieter pattern. Their wealth does not come from effort. It comes from architecture, from the deliberate construction of conditions in which money must flow to them. Ask yourself, why do kings grow richer simply by existing? Why do rulers, executives, and strategists receive rewards disproportionate to the labor they perform? It is because they understand a truth the common man avoids. Wealth is merely the shadow cast by power. Consider the courts of Renaissance Italy. Merchants worked endlessly, praying their fortunes would not collapse under the weight of a single bad harvest or political shift. Yet a single decree from a duke could create entire industries overnight. He did not labor. He decided. And that decision made others labor for him. You must understand this distinction if you wish to rise. The majority chase money as if it were the prize. The powerful treat money as the consequence of positioning. Think of Caesar. Before the civil wars, he was deeply in debt, one of the most indebted men in Rome. Yet lenders willingly financed his ambitions because they understood something simple. If Caesar gained power, wealth would pour from every direction. When he crossed the Rubicon, he was not chasing money. He was claiming a role that guaranteed it. Now consider your own life. Are you struggling because you lack effort? Or because you have placed yourself in a position where effort can only yield small, controlled rewards? Most people serve structures designed by others. Structures where the ceiling is low, the rules are fixed, and obedience is rewarded more than ambition. The powerful construct the structure itself. This is why, throughout history, rulers imposed taxes instead of wages. It is easier to receive wealth from many streams than to labor for one. Psychologically, human beings are wired to obey hierarchies, to submit to symbols of authority, and to reinforce systems that promise stability, even if they enrich only a few. The powerful exploit these tendencies, not through cruelty, but through understanding. You may think this is distant from your world. But look around. In corporations, the CEO does not work harder than the employees. He simply controls the environment in which all work occurs. He determines direction, sets incentives, defines standards, and from that authority, wealth naturally flows upward. Where does this leave you? It forces a question most people avoid. Are you trying to earn money or trying to position yourself where money comes as a side effect? The powerful leverage asymmetry. A single decision from them can generate thousands of hours of labor from others. A single relationship can unlock opportunities the common man could never reach through hard work alone. A single move in the right arena can yield more than a decade of disciplined routine. You must rethink value itself. Hard work is noble, but it is rarely rewarded. What is rewarded is influence, control, the ability to make others dependent on your choices. Power is not always loud. More often, it is the quiet ability to say yes or no to what others desperately want. This is why the wealthy cultivate networks, alliances, and positions where their presence alone creates opportunity. Not because they enjoy being admired, but because admiration is leverage. Leverage is currency, and currency becomes wealth. Reflect on this. When money flows effortlessly to someone, it is not because the universe favors them. It is because they have arranged the game so the pieces move in their direction. They do not compete. They are the ones for whom others compete. And so we return to the principle: wealth is not earned. It is engineered. It is the natural reward for those who place themselves where resources must pass through them. Now the real question emerges. If this is how the powerful acquire wealth effortlessly, what other invisible strategies do they use to ensure they never lose it? Perception is the first currency of power. Before gold, before armies, before influence, there is the image you cast into the minds of others. And those who master this image rarely need to lift a sword or raise their voice. Their presence alone bends the world around them. But ask yourself, how often have you mistaken confidence for competence, authority for wisdom, a calm posture for true strength? You are not alone. Humans are wired to obey what looks powerful long before they analyze what is powerful. And the powerful know this. They craft appearances with the precision of a sculptor shaping marble. In the courts of Florence, rulers survived not because they were the strongest, but because they controlled perception. They dressed with intention. They spoke with measured calm. They surrounded themselves with symbols of influence: art, scholars, guards, alliances. Each detail whispered a message. This is someone you do not challenge. Now consider the opposite. A man may possess skill, intelligence, even moral virtue, yet be dismissed simply because he fails to project authority. The world rarely judges the truth. It judges the surface. The powerful exploit this weakness. Look at Caesar once again. Before commanding Rome, he mastered the art of appearing destined for greatness. At public events, he carried himself with almost theatrical control, never rushing, never showing fear, always arriving with an entourage that signaled significance. People followed him not because they inspected his soul, but because they believed the myth he projected. Do you think this dynamic has vanished? Not at all. Today, perception is more valuable than ever. Reputations are manufactured with stories, images, and controlled moments designed to convey superiority long before any real superiority exists. A modern executive walks into a boardroom with sharp posture and minimal words. Immediately, people adjust their tone, their expectations, their respect. He hasn't proven anything. He has signaled everything. This is the strategy the powerful use. They let others build the illusion for them. Psychologically, people crave leadership. They crave certainty. They crave someone who seems immune to the chaos they themselves feel trapped within. The powerful do not need to be extraordinary. They merely need to appear steady while others tremble. This is why the illusion of authority is so dangerous. Once people believe you hold power, they will reinforce that belief themselves. They will defer, flatter, accommodate, and eventually obey. Think of the church in medieval Europe. Its strength did not come from armies but from perception. People believed it spoke for the divine. That belief alone made kings kneel. Reality mattered far less than the image embraced by the masses. You must learn from this if you wish to rise. Ask yourself, how do others interpret your presence? Your tone? Your silence? Your posture? Your decisions? Do you appear decisive even when you are uncertain? Do you appear disciplined even when you are learning? Do you appear calm even when you are calculating? If not, understand this: people rarely wait for proof. Their minds form conclusions instantly. And once a perception forms, it is incredibly difficult to replace. The powerful do not leave this process to chance. They shape their environment. They choose their associations strategically. They remove anything that weakens their image. Hesitation, desperation, emotional messiness, uncontrolled reactions. Imagine two men competing for the same opportunity. One speaks too much, trying to justify his worth. The other speaks little, observing, calculating, offering only what is necessary. Whom will the room perceive as stronger? The silent one. Not because he is superior, but because restraint suggests mastery. This is the dark psychology of perception. People assume depth where they cannot see into you. They assume weakness where you expose too much. Thus, the powerful reveal nothing they do not intend to be seen. And remember this, humans project their fears, hopes, and insecurities onto anyone who appears confident. This projection becomes leverage. Leverage becomes influence. Influence becomes wealth, opportunity, and control. So, ask yourself honestly, are you shaping perception, or are you being shaped by it? If you wish to move from obscurity to influence, you must learn the second rule of power. It is not reality that rules men, but the appearance of reality. Scarcity has always been one of the sharpest weapons in the arsenal of the powerful. Not because resources themselves were rare, but because wise rulers learned to control access to them. And through that control, they shaped the desires, loyalties, and behaviors of entire populations. Ask yourself, why does something become more valuable the moment it becomes difficult to obtain? Why do people chase what retreats from them and ignore what lies within reach? You already know the answer, even if you've never spoken it aloud. Human psychology worships what feels exclusive. When something is scarce, people assume it is important. When something is abundant, they assume it is disposable. The powerful manipulate this instinct mercilessly. Consider the merchant princes of Venice. They dominated trade not by possessing the most goods, but by controlling the routes and the permissions that allowed others to move goods. Scarcity was not nature's doing. It was orchestration, and from this orchestrated scarcity came wealth, obedience, and geopolitical influence. Now look at your own world. Think of luxury brands that destroy unsold products instead of discounting them. Why? Because the illusion of rarity inflates desire. People willingly pay 10 times the value simply because they believe others cannot have it. This is not commerce. It is psychological manipulation. The powerful understand that attention itself is a resource to be rationed. A leader who is always available diminishes his own presence. A strategist who responds to everyone loses the gravity of his position. But one who limits his access forces others to value every moment, every word, every decision. Ask yourself, do people treat your time as valuable? Or have you given it away so freely that they take it for granted? Controlled scarcity begins with you. The powerful reveal little, speak rarely, and allow their silence to generate tension. That tension becomes fascination. Fascination becomes respect. Respect becomes influence. This is why kings seldom appeared in public. Why courts restricted audiences. Why rulers crafted rituals, barriers, and layers of protocol. Not because they feared the people, but because scarcity magnified their presence. A single appearance became an event. A single decree became sacred. You can create the same psychological gravity. Not through arrogance, but through strategic limitation. Take modern relationships as an example. When you are too accessible, people undervalue you. When you withdraw completely, they forget you. But when you control the rhythm, appearing with intention, withdrawing with purpose, you shape expectations. You dictate the emotional pace. You become the scarce resource others pursue. Scarcity is not about being absent, it is about being selectively present. Even knowledge becomes powerful when restricted. Think of organizations that hide their methods behind mystique, secrecy, or hierarchy. Members behave with loyalty because they believe they have access to something exclusive. The content may be simple, but the scarcity is engineered to inspire devotion. And ask yourself this, why do people trust those who seem selective with their attention? Because selectivity suggests discipline. Discipline suggests wisdom. Wisdom suggests authority. Authority creates dependence. This is the structure the powerful rely upon. Create the perception that your time, knowledge, and presence are rare, and people will elevate you without your lifting a finger. But controlled scarcity is not merely psychological, it is strategic. Consider ancient rulers who limited grain supplies to influence public loyalty. The scarcity ensured obedience because survival depended on the ruler's generosity. But the ruler was not generous, he was calculating. He controlled the rhythm of supply and demand to ensure dependency. The modern world mirrors this perfectly. Corporations create artificial shortages to inflate prices. Influencers release limited editions to heighten engagement. Consultants open only a handful of client slots to signal prestige. It is not the product that is valuable. It is the limitation that creates the value. Reflect on your ambitions for power. Are you trying to prove your worth through constant availability, constant effort, constant exposure? If so, you are weakening your own influence. No one chases what they can easily obtain. Controlled scarcity creates mystique. Mystique creates demand. Demand creates leverage. And leverage creates effortless power. But we have only examined the external side of scarcity, how it manipulates others. There is a deeper, colder strategy hidden beneath it. To master scarcity, you must first master yourself. Emotions are the oldest traps known to mankind. They cloud judgment, distort perception, and bind even the strongest men to impulses that serve their enemies more than themselves. Those who rise to power learn early that while emotions are natural, reacting to them is optional. Ask yourself, how many decisions in your life were made not from strategy, but from anger, fear, envy, or desperation? And how often did those decisions serve you? The powerful understand a truth the masses ignore. Emotional detachment is not coldness, it is clarity. Consider the rulers of ancient empires. A king who reacted from rage often plunged his nation into chaos. A general who pursued revenge rather than strategy walked straight into defeat. Yet the leaders remembered by history were the ones who could silence their inner storms long enough to think. Look at Octavian, the man who became Augustus. His enemies underestimated him because he appeared fragile, untested, even mild. But his calm masked a calculating mind. Where others lashed out, he observed. Where others reacted, he planned. His emotional restraint allowed him to outmaneuver men far stronger, far older, and far louder than himself. Now consider your own experience. When someone insults you, do you respond instantly? When someone provokes you, do you rise to their bait? When someone pressures you, do you feel compelled to act? If so, you are predictable. And predictability is the enemy of power. The powerful cultivate emotional neutrality. Not because they lack feeling, but because they refuse to be ruled by it. It is not the absence of emotion, it is the mastery of it. Think about negotiations. The person who wants the outcome the most always loses. The one who appears indifferent, who shows no urgency, no anxiety, no emotional attachment, holds the advantage. Their calm forces the other side to make concessions, to justify themselves, to overextend in an attempt to win approval or resolution. Imagine two merchants bargaining in a Florentine marketplace. One pleads, argues, and insists. The other listens silently, unmoved. Which one walks away with the better deal? The one whose emotions never appeared. Humans interpret emotional displays as weakness. A raised voice reveals insecurity. A defensive tone reveals fear. A desperate plea reveals dependence. And every revelation becomes ammunition. This is why the powerful move like still water. Their calm is disarming. Their silence is intimidating. Their lack of visible emotion forces others to fill the void with their own anxieties, assumptions, and overreactions. Psychologically, emotional detachment triggers a fascinating reaction in people. They project strength onto you. They assume you know more than you reveal. They assume you are unshaken, even when you are simply strategic. Your restraint becomes a mirror that reflects their insecurities back at them. But emotional detachment is not merely a tactic. It is a shield. Consider a commander on the eve of battle. If he shows fear, his troops collapse. If he shows rage, they act recklessly. If he shows despair, they flee. So he shows nothing except resolve. His inner turmoil is irrelevant. The image he projects determines the battlefield before a single sword is raised. This applies to you as well. Your reactions shape your environment. React emotionally, and you surrender control of the situation to whoever triggered you. Respond strategically, and you regain the position of dominance. Ask yourself, who controls you when you act out of anger? Who influences you when you seek validation? Who benefits when you cannot tolerate discomfort? The answer is always the same, not you. Emotional detachment frees you from manipulation. It prevents others from steering your choices. It creates a psychological barrier that few can penetrate. But do not confuse this with apathy. Detachment does not mean you stop caring. It means you care selectively, intentionally, and silently. Your emotions become private tools rather than public vulnerabilities. This is why the powerful remain calm in conflict, composed in uncertainty, unshaken in provocation. Their silence is not emptiness, it is strategy. And here lies the darker truth. When you detach emotionally, you gain the ability to observe others with precision. You see their weaknesses, their fears, their desires. And once you see them, you can use them. Because emotional detachment is not only protection, it is preparation. Human weakness is the most abundant resource in the world. It is more plentiful than gold, more predictable than weather, and more exploitable than any system of law. Those who rise to power do so not by ignoring human frailty, but by understanding it so deeply that it becomes their greatest instrument. Ask yourself, how often do people act from desire rather than logic? How often do they cling to comfort instead of truth? How often do they obey fear more than reason? You already know the answer. Weakness governs more human behavior than strength ever will. The powerful do not judge this. They use it. Consider the courts of Europe. Kings survived far less by military power than by manipulating the insecurities of those beneath them. A noble's vanity could secure his loyalty. A rival's fear could guarantee his silence. A merchant's greed could bind him to the throne. These rulers understood that you do not need perfect allies. You simply need predictable weaknesses. And every human has at least one. Look at the story of Cesare Borgia, one of history's most strategic manipulators. He rarely threatened those he wanted to control. He observed them first. He identified the pressure points: ambition, jealousy, the hunger for status. Then he offered each man what he could not resist. They followed him willingly, unaware that their desires were the chains he wrapped around their necks. Now consider your own life. People reveal their weaknesses constantly. They complain, they brag, they seek approval, they overshare. All of these are signals, maps showing exactly where they can be influenced. The question is, do you notice these signals, or are you too distracted by your own emotions to use them? Weakness often hides behind confidence. The man who boasts about his success fears irrelevance. The one who seeks conflict fears invisibility. The one who needs validation fears emptiness. If you listen carefully, people confess their vulnerabilities without ever meaning to. The powerful turn these confessions into leverage. Think of a negotiation. If someone reveals their urgency, you slow the pace. If they reveal their insecurity, you project certainty. If they reveal their craving for approval, you withhold it. You position yourself as the solution to the very weakness they cannot control. Psychologically, people do not follow the strongest leader. They follow the one who makes them feel the way they desperately want to feel: safe, seen, valued, important. The powerful provide this illusion strategically, never emotionally. But manipulation does not always require deception. Sometimes it requires simply allowing people to act out their weaknesses while you remain the still center they orbit. Take modern workplaces. A manager who understands his employees' motivations can assign tasks with precision. Prize seekers are given visible projects. Comfort seekers are given stability. Ambitious strivers are given responsibility. Each person believes they are being supported, but in truth, they are being directed by their own nature. This is the essence of influence. You do not force people to obey you. You make them obey their own weaknesses in a way that benefits you. Reflect on how this applies to your interactions. When someone reacts emotionally, do you react back, or do you watch? When someone tries to impress you, do you feed their ego, or do you let their need reveal its depth? When someone fears losing you, do you reassure them, or do you allow the fear to shape their behavior? The powerful do not rush to fix weakness. They observe it. They weaponize it. Not out of cruelty, but out of understanding. Human nature seeks comfort. Human nature seeks validation. Human nature seeks meaning. And if you position yourself as the gatekeeper of any of these, people will sacrifice their independence to remain close to you. But here lies the darker truth. Just as you see the weaknesses in others, others see the weaknesses in you. And if you do not master yours, someone else will weaponize them against you. This is why the powerful practice introspection with the same intensity that they study others. They hunt their own fears. They silence their own insecurities. They discipline their own cravings. Only then can they manipulate without being manipulated. And once you grasp how weakness operates, both in others and within yourself, you stand at the threshold of a strategy even more potent, creating dependency. Because understanding weakness allows you to influence individuals, but mastering dependency allows you to control entire systems. Dependency is the final stage of true power. It is not enough to influence people. If you want control that endures, control that survives conflict, competition, and time, you must create environments where others need you more than you need them. Ask yourself, who truly holds power in any relationship? The one who gives the most, or the one who can take something away? Humans fear loss more than they desire gain, and this fear is the soil from which dependency grows. Consider ancient rulers. They did not control their subjects through constant force. Force is expensive, unstable, and temporary. Instead, they created systems where survival, prosperity, or status flowed through their hands. Peasants depended on land, merchants depended on trade routes, nobles depended on royal favor. Each group tied not by loyalty, but by necessity. Dependency is the quiet chain that does not rattle. Look at the Medici. They rose not because they commanded armies, but because the entire city of Florence depended on their banking network. Merchants needed credit. Nobles needed loans. Even rival families who despised them were forced to borrow from them. The Medici controlled the one resource everyone needed, and dependency gave them more power than 1,000 soldiers. Now consider your own world. Corporations thrive not by selling necessities, but by creating ecosystems. Your phone syncs with your computer. Your passwords sync with your clouds. Your identity syncs with your apps. Convenience becomes reliance. Reliance becomes captivity. This is the modern form of feudalism, wrapped in sleek design and effortless access. The powerful understand that the most effective leash is the one people willingly place around their own necks. Ask yourself, where in your life do you depend on someone or something so deeply that losing it would disrupt your entire rhythm? And now invert that question, where could others depend on you? Dependency begins with value. But value alone is not enough. You must make it exclusive. If anyone can replace you, you hold no leverage. If only you can provide something others need, your position becomes untouchable. Think of the trusted advisor in any royal court. He survives countless political purges because the ruler depends on his knowledge, insight, or skill. Others may be more charismatic, more ambitious, even more loyal. But they are not necessary. And power always protects what it needs. You must cultivate this same necessity. Ask yourself, what do you offer that others cannot easily find? What skills do you possess that are rare? What emotional experience do you provide that others crave? What stability do you represent that others lack? People depend on authenticity when they cannot create it. They depend on certainty when they live in doubt. They depend on clarity when they feel lost. If you offer these, selectively, strategically, you will find people orbiting your presence like planets around a sun. But dependency is not only about giving, it is about withholding. Consider a mentor who guides a young pupil. If he gives all wisdom at once, the pupil outgrows him. But if he provides knowledge gradually, each insight leading to another question, the pupil remains tied to him, intellectually and emotionally. The dependency grows not from what is shared, but from what is withheld. Psychologically, humans cling to those who stabilize their fears. A calm presence becomes a pillar. A confident voice becomes an anchor. A person who brings relief becomes indispensable. You may have played this role without realizing it. The question now is, can you do it intentionally? Dependency deepens when people believe leaving you would lead to chaos, uncertainty, or loss. This is how toxic leaders maintain their grip. How charismatic figures build cult-like followings. How powerful families dominate for generations. Not through terror, through necessity. Even in personal relationships, the pattern is the same. Make someone feel safe, then selectively withdraw. Offer warmth, then become slightly mysterious. Provide support, but not enough for complete independence. You are shaping their emotional rhythm, teaching their nervous system to seek you. And once someone's stability relies on your presence, you no longer need to demand loyalty. It emerges naturally from their fear of losing you. But dependency can go even deeper, into identity itself. When people define themselves through you, through your approval, through your worldview, they bind their sense of self to your existence. This is the highest form of power. Not physical, not financial, psychological. The moment someone believes they cannot become who they wish to be without you, you have achieved a level of influence that few ever experience. Yet there is one final strategy. One even darker, even more potent, reserved for those who wish not only to command individuals, but to shape entire realities. And that strategy is what awaits you beyond this segment. In the end, power is never taken by force alone. It is taken through perception, through quiet influence, through guiding a mind without letting it notice the leash around its neck. If you have learned anything here, let it be this: people obey most when they believe the command was their own idea. They resist least when they cannot identify the hand shaping their emotions. And they follow longest when their pride remains untouched. Ask yourself, how many decisions around you are truly independent? How many are the result of invisible pressures, subtle incentives, or silent threats? And more importantly, how many decisions of others are already in your control? Remember, the most efficient ruler is the one no one sees. The most effective influence is the one no one detects. If these strategies sharpened your understanding, step deeper into this path. Comment your thoughts below. Your perspective reveals your ambition. Subscribe for more lessons in power, perception, and psychological warfare. And share this video with someone who still believes influence must be loud. Let them learn how real control operates.